Hey, welcome back. I'm Condeluci. Thanks so much for viewing this video. Today we want to talk with you about communications. This information is actually being brought to you by UCP class, and if you get a chance you might want to take a look at our website. You know, most of us that provide services to folks with disabilities, the primary tool that we have at our disposal is communications. And the better we communicate, the more effective we communicate, the more impactful we can be in our work. So, you know, from a sense of communications, the very first thing to understand is, what does it mean? And communications is one of those kind of concepts that's simple yet complex. We all see ourselves as communicators, but in reality, communication is a complex phenomenon. But the best way to start understanding communications is understand it from a definition point of view. Communications is the ability to take a concept, an idea, or a point of view and communicate that or express that in such a way that an approximation exists between what you're trying to say and what the listener is actually hearing. Now, one of the key things in terms of understanding communication really is to think about how we communicate, or the tools we use for communication. And often we think just about the notion of words. We think that words alone are the point of communication, and in fact, words are critical to communication. But there's a whole variety of ways that we have at our disposal that we can use to enhance our communication. Obviously, along with the words, we have actions, and we know that actions, in many regards, speak louder than words. You know, those of us that are parents know, we tell our children something. If we do the opposite of what we're telling our children say, hey, what's this about? They're confused. They don't understand that. So we want our actions really to be consistent with our words. The other option is gestures. And gestures are body language that we use to underscore the points of our message. And so with gesturing, we can use our hands, we can use our face, we can use our body, how we posture ourselves to underscore our points. Another mode is images. Images are pictures or illustrations that help us get our point across. Right now on this smartboard, I'm using an image to help communicate a point to you. This is a graphic illustration of what I'm trying to say. We also communicate powerfully with touch. When we shake a hand, when we put our arm around somebody, when we go to a funeral home and we're there to offer our sympathy and we hug the grieving family, that touch communicates our sympathy. Odors. Odors are powerful communicators in our culture. You think about those kinds of smells that can bring you back to some place you've been before. They actually communicate powerfully a message. Certainly we understand this with perfume and with cologne. We want to communicate through an odor something that's positive. And then last, certainly not least, is sounds. A siren blaring on the highway signals or communicates to you, move out of the way. Now, communication is really a process, and I want to sort of show it to you very, very quickly. It looks like this. When we think about communication, we think about it from a sense of two people coming together to share something, right? So this is person A, this is person B. And they're coming together for some reason. Communication always has a reason. So if you follow this, this would be person A, and this is their sphere of experience. So this is everything about Condeluci, who he is, where he was raised, how he was educated. And Condeluci is now attempting to communicate with you, and this is you and your sphere of experience, right? Everything about you. Now, the more that I know about you, the more powerful the communication is. I'm assuming in this particular video that you are interested in disability issues. You're maybe a family member, you may be a person who is experiencing a disability, or a staff member. And so I'm trying to think more about what your experience base is. Now, what actually happens in communication is I will code a message right? I'll put a message together. I'll think about these things when I put the message together, and then I will literally communicate that message to you. I will, what we call, signal the message to you. So here's the coded message, I signal it to you, and then what I'm really hoping is that you decode the message in a way that there's an approximation. Now, communication clearly is powerful in that it has two major features. It has content, that's what I want to say, content. So content is what I'm going to say. And then there's affect. And affect is how I say it. Content and affect. Now let me kind of show this to you a little bit closer. Content and affect. These are the two core ingredients of communication. What I want to say, how I want to say it. And now content is the corpus of information. So today I'm communicating to you about communication. So the content is all information about communication. But most powerful in my presentation with you today is the notion of not just what I'm going to say, but how I'm going to say that. And with the content, or the words, the sounds, the odors, the images, I'm now going to add two really important ingredients. And I want you to really kind of look at these: proxemics and kinesics. Proxemics are the space or the distance that I take. Right now, I have a certain distance between me and this camera, and you have a distance between you and the screen that you're watching me on today. Now, there are four different levels of spacing. There's the public space, there's the social space, there's the personal space, and there's the intimate space. Obviously, public space, the furthest distance, intimacy, actually touching one another. So we want to be cognizant of our proxemics, but more importantly, we want to be focused as well on kinesics. Kinesics have things like how we're dressed, our physical connection to you, eye contact, facial expressions. All of these things are critical to good communication. And this gets me to the last point of communications, and that is listening. Good communication is predicated on listening. And one of the things we know, and I'm going to show you this in this little chart, is that with communication there's two kinds of things going on. Right? There's the communicator, the person talking, and then there's the person listening. So what typically happens in communication is you'll come to me and say, Al, I want to talk to you about something. And this will be me. I'll say, okay, my intensity is high. What do you want to say? What's on your mind? I'll be high in intensity, ready to listen to you. But what actually happens to the listener is the listening curve begins to drop over time. In other words, I get distracted, other things happen, the phone rings, I hear a sound outside my door. And oftentimes, interestingly enough, the speaker starts with low intensity. They use small talk, we call it icebreakers, and then over time, they get to a more powerful point of view. And what often will happen is we'll have the highest level of what the communicator is having, and then we have this gap between the communicator and the listener. And so good listening requires that we do a couple very important things. Number one, we want to be interested in what people say. We want to attend to them. We want to stop any judgments we might have about them. We want to face the person squarely. We want to reduce any distractions, and mostly we want to affirm what they're saying to us. Those are the key elements to listening. And so there you have it, a kind of a short synopsis about communication, the most important tool that we have in our arsenal as we go out there to change community. So thanks so much for listening to this video. Please know that if you want to find out some more information about our agency, go to our website. You'll discover all the things we're doing here in Pittsburgh to help build the community where it belongs. I'm Al Condeluci. I want to thank you for everything you're doing. See you now.